if I traded it all, if I gave
Welcome
it
back, everyone.
all.
I'm very excited about bringing on my next guest. She's been on with me once before. I have with me Emily Sebring, and she is the owner of Herbalicious of Arizona. Welcome to the show. I know that you're going to be having a name change starting June 1st, and it's going to be Root to Root, Botanicals and Natural Medicine. Tell everybody a little bit about yourself and what you do. I mean, I'm telling you, everybody's going this natural route, I'm telling you. And but talk a little bit about the name change, too. Go ahead, right into that, Mike.
Thank you for having me. It's wonderful seeing you again. In regards to the name change, Herbalicious of Arizona has been around for about 5.5 years now. It is a holistic medical center. Primarily, my work involves nutrition. It involves the herbal side of things, homeopathic, naturopathic, the whole 9 yards. I work primarily with chronic disease. But about 2 years ago, we started having some issues with the name because everyone thought I was a dispensary. Like, no, I do not sell marijuana. I do not write cards.
Yeah.
And so over the course of the past few months, we've decided to go ahead and legally change the name of the clinic.
And funny enough, when I first called you, no, I didn't think any of that. I thought herbs, I talked about herbs. That was my mind, not about any of that whatsoever. But go ahead.
It was when it became legalized is when I started to have a problem. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people thought that was the only herb and that was the only way to heal. It was like, no, we got like 2,000 to work with, guys.
But you have totally different things that you do there, and you specialize in what?
Chronic disease primarily, so diabetes, lupus, fibromyalgia, anything that's autoimmune, cancers up to stage 2. A lot of people come in and they say, I don't feel good, and the doctor says there's nothing wrong with me. So it's kind of backtracking to figure out how they got into the boat that they're in and get them back out of the boat. Mm-hmm. And
so I want to also talk a little bit about something, because you're doing something that's very special, and I want you to explain it, because for this giveaway, you got to explain what it is that you're doing. Go ahead.
Okay, so we are mind, body, spirit. I work heavily with the body also, and part of that involves nutrition. So about 3 years ago, I partnered up with Borderland Food Banks, and one of the things that we do, it comes out every month, and in my situation, we are out of Casa Grande. So it's the 4th Saturday. And we have, it's called Powwow, is the nickname for the actual program, Produce on Wheels Without Waste. And it's 60 pounds of produce. Half of it's organic, some of it's not, some of it is. I never know what's on the truck till about 2:30 that morning. I'm like, oh, look at that. So what we did is they brought in this program of 60 pounds of produce for $10. And a lot of people tell me they cannot afford to eat healthy. So I'm like, yes, you can. It is.
Yeah, it can be, but go ahead.
But when you're spending $10, so our giveaway is the first 10 people will receive a complimentary voucher. So they won't even have to pay. They just show up with their voucher at any powwow in Arizona.
Okay, so where are they?
Anyway.
So where can they find them?
Their direct website is Borderlands, plural, borderlandsfoodbanks.org.
Okay.
You can go on and you can sign up for their newsletter, and their newsletter comes out every single week, and it has a list of all the locations for that week. And it also gives you recipes, information. It's an amazing organization.
So what's on it usually?
Normally produce itself, fresh produce. Mm-hmm. So we see, depending on the time of year, it's whatever's in season. It could be cucumbers or zucchini. Tomatoes was like real hot last year, about 5 months worth. But watermelons, cantaloupes, all different kinds of squash, pickles, you name it.
Awesome. So we have our lines open here, and we're going to open it for people to get. The first 10 people are going to get a $10 voucher, correct?
Correct.
So again, that means that you would pay nothing for it, and you can. It's anywhere in Arizona. You can check them out, and we can talk a little bit about that website again. But our number here is 602-277-5369, and toll free it's 1-866-536-1100. I mean, you don't know what it's going to be, but normally it is either organic or something very good for you, but fresh
and
produce and local produce. Again, that number here, 602-277-5369. Toll free, it's 1-866-536-1100. Let's talk again about you, okay? Because you can create in your practice, let's say somebody comes to you and they tell you that they have stage 2 cancer, right? Mm-hmm. And what can you do for them?
With anything of that level, I look at the person as a whole. What is their lifestyle? What are their priorities? What are their goals? What is everything from nutrition to what are they eating, what are they drinking, what are they watching on TV, what are they consuming.
Wow. So let me ask you this. So to me, what sounds different when you think of somebody who has, like, it's an herb, it's like a pharmacy, but it's herbs, right?
It's
more
herbs.
than that.
Yes. Apothecary is the old English word for pharmacy.
Apothecary was the word that I was looking for. Thank you. So but it's different. Like, when you would go into your Walgreens, they don't do an assessment on you in any way. So explain to them what you do, because it's so different.
It's a melting pot. So the way I design the entire practice is I am private practice. My cancers, my autoimmunes, my diabetics, they're all by appointment because they're 2 hours of my time. But that's within certain time frames. But in regards to the apothecary, that time frame is for anybody to walk in and say, hey, I've got this issue. What can you recommend? And I look at the situation. Do they need further in depth? Do I have a hot mess walking in, or what am I working with here? Is it someone who just has allergies, or someone who's got a cold and a flu, or headaches? Is this something I can just put together and work with them on the spot, or do they need an appointment?
And so generally, let's say they have that and they come in and they have something that they ended up needing that appointment, okay? And then they come back and then you do an assessment and you actually, you're almost like a doctor.
In a roundabout sort of way. I'm not a doctor.
No, I know.
At least not yet. But and there's a
next.
difference between a doctor and a physician. So there's a difference between the two. A physician would diagnose. I don't diagnose. A physician can do all the different pharmaceuticals. A naturopath specifically can do pharmaceuticals or holistic herbal style. So that's it depends on the patient and their practice.
Again, this is something that people are all looking towards. We know this for sure. And what I really love about what you do is it is all natural, and so many people out there that are dealing with whatever it is that they're doing, especially cancer, and they're going through chemo, there's other things that you could do to help them.
Absolutely.
But even with the side effects of everything that they're dealing with. Go ahead.
As far as what they're dealing with, having been through chemo, having been down this path, which is why I got into holistics, and I didn't have cancer, I had an autoimmune that they didn't know what to do with. I know what it feels like to have that poison running through you. I know what it feels like to be told, there's nothing we can do for you, or just write it out, or take these pills. It sucks. Okay, I'm not sure if I should say that in the air, but there you go.
Be careful, please. But really, the truth is that a lot of people have autoimmune deficiencies and they don't even know it because they're not easily found, right?
Correct.
And I don't understand that myself. I've had things myself where people have said, you could be a candidate for MS and this and that and the other thing. And I'll have issues that come up once in a while, this and that. But I know people there's out there that are constantly, it's just chronic, whether it's pain or whatever they're dealing with.
One of the ways you can identify or differentiate amongst the difference, there are so many different versions or types of autoimmunes, is it depends on, some of our illnesses can be tested through the blood for an antibody, like RA. Do you have a factor or not? What's the blood work saying? Others you can't really identify, and you go by symptoms. You go by pressure points. Fibromyalgia is one, for example. But then you have other that you can identify because your body is physically, it's not just pain, but something's wrong, and that's where our diabetics start to come in. They're super thirsty all the time all of a sudden. And then they start looking at blood sugars, which leads to all these other issues. So it just depends. That's why I look at the whole person.
Now, I want to give out some information. The phone number is 520-414-0041. You obviously do consultations with everyone. You have to do that. And you say that one of the number one question is that people come in and says, I can't afford to eat healthy. Right?
Correct. And they walk in with a $6 Starbucks.
Well, there you go.
So even though it's a medical consult, let's say, I bring their budget and I bring in their lifestyle. If they're going out to eat all the time, I literally make them do the math and see how much are you spending. I mean, it's to the point now I have a Dave Ramsey program sitting at the office.
That's
How
funny.
to get out of debt. But they don't understand. They don't want to pay $3 or $4 for a dozen organic eggs. But they're sitting there with the Starbucks. Mm-hmm. Not anything against Starbucks, but it's about priorities.
Well, again, it is. I mean, you in order to eat healthy, it does cost a little bit more, but you've made it possible for everybody. Right now, we've got our lines open here, and everyone's getting. We've got 10 people. The first 10 people that call in, you're going to get. It's a voucher for $10, so you're going to be paying for nothing for that. It's fresh produce that's on wheels, and you can get it anywhere in Arizona. Our number here is 602-277-5369, and toll free it's 1-866-536-1100.
If I traded it all.
Welcome back. We're talking with Emily Sebring, and she is the owner. It's called Herbalicious of Arizona. It is soon to be changed. That's going to be Root to Root Botanicals and Natural Medicine. How'd you come up with that name?
Oh, long story.
Okay.
So
I'm glad you're doing 30 minutes. Go ahead.
So I deal with roots, I deal with flowers and leaves and all the herbs and all the formats. And it's kind of connected to the travel. So the root to root is the route. Some people pronounce it route. So it's kind of in honor of Route 91. And so it's a root to root, botanicals and natural medicine. The botanicals is for the apothecary. The natural medicine is for the clinic.
Now, in terms of this, we have to let everybody know again that we were talking about the giveaway that you're doing, which is the $10 voucher for the most incredible produce that you're going to get that is local, right?
Correct.
And you can get it anywhere, all the food banks that are around you can check them out. It's borderlandsfoodbanks.org.
Correct.
And so you can check out where they are, and we're going to keep our lines open for everyone to call throughout the rest of the show, and we're giving away 10 people are going to get a $10 voucher. So basically it costs you nothing to get incredible...
it's 60 pounds. People don't realize
60
how
pounds?
much 60
How
pounds...
many tomatoes is that?
Woo, it depends on the day.
I love having you. So it says 60 pounds worth of produce that's fresh and local. Again, our number here is 602-277-5369, and toll free it's 1-866-536-1100. Okay, so one of the things that I see here right now, which I love, because we were talking about this at the break, and I was saying that I'm starting to change my ways a little bit, and you said it's little by little. Let's talk about organic versus conventional.
Okay. So little by little is baby steps. You can't just jump into a whole different lifestyle because it's not going to last. You've got to work your way through it. So a lot of people don't understand the difference between organic and conventional. And it is not uncommon to go from a conventional produce diet, for example, or a conventional diet to an organic diet, and they don't understand why all they did was switch the type and they start gaining weight. It's like, oh, okay, so this is
why would you gain weight with organic as opposed to conventional?
Organic is nutrient dense. So let's say you have 3 apples a day. You have an apple, a conventional apple, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Okay, and they have so many calories. Great, but they only have so many nutrients. Vitamin C, magnesium, potassium. Now let's say you go to 3 organic apples a day, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Similar calories, but they have so many more nutrients per. That's why I have people basically try to grow their own produce, do produce on wheels, do fresh produce so that they can get the nutrient density. So you're not deficient. So an apple is not necessarily an apple.
You got to check it out. Mm-hmm. You got to check it out. How do you know? You would only know by going with something like these food banks and...
It's more than that. If you can put an apple on your countertop and it doesn't change for 3 weeks,
you don't want to eat that.
Yeah, it's basically preserved. Uh-huh. Food's supposed to rot. And people get upset. They're like, oh my gosh, my produce didn't last. I was like, well, it lasted a week. You're lucky you got that far.
Interesting. So again, you can call in here. Everyone's getting entered in to win. We've got 10 people that get a $10 voucher, and you can get this 60 pounds of produce, fresh produce that you're going to get from any of them. You can check them out on their website, which is Borderlands Food Banks, and that's plural.org, or call in here. Our number here, 602-277-5369. Toll free, it's 1-866-536-1100. Okay, I want to talk a little bit about, herbs. Do they really work?
Absolutely.
Okay. Talk into that mic so they can hear that.
Okay, so a lot of people think herbs don't work, and there's a big misconception because they don't know how to use them properly, or they don't understand basically what herb is for what.
So I have a cold. I come into you with just a regular cold. What would you mix up for me? I was going to say, you can't say that. So mix up. What would be your potion?
Okay, so my potion or my formulation would depend on, first of all, what kind of cold. Am I looking at a bacterial or viral? So I kind of go from there. But some of our standards that most people recognize would be echinacea, for example. So echinacea is one to stimulate the immune system. And then I may throw on a little elder. So elder is a very strong antiviral. A lot of our cold and flus tend to be more viral based. Sometimes I'll throw in some yarrow, especially with a child, it lets it run a fever without spiking. And then I'll just kind of mix and match. I have custom blends that are just literally grab and goes because we got hit so hard with cold and flu season. I can't even tell you how many we had.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure.
I was like, okay, we need 16 ounces of this, please. And then from there, if I'm doing it in a tea form, I take into account flavor.
So wait, I was just going to ask you that. Mm-hmm. When you're mixing the ones that you just described, would that be in a pill form
or
in
an extract? Drops.
Okay, drop. That's what I wanted to ask. Okay.
Yes.
And now you can also do something in a tea form.
Exactly.
Okay.
Cold and flu, for example, a lot of people came in after all this antibiotic use and they ended up with UTIs. So I can use different plants that address the cold and flu but go through the kidneys to help heal those the issues of a UTI.
Sure. Mm-hmm. Oh my gosh. And then what about if it is something major, like you say, cancer, or I don't know, something else that you might just...
diabetes is the number one right now. I have diabetics walking in the door every day.
That's because our diet is so bad. What do you think?
It's partially the food sources, but it's also the lifestyle choices. A lot of people have no clue how they got in the boat they got into.
Everybody needs to go to you because you teach them everything.
I try. That way they're not dependent on me. Mm-hmm. If I can teach someone how to take care of themselves, they don't need me necessarily. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to be around forever, but they will, and they can raise their children differently. They can make choices for brothers, for sisters, for parents. They can basically work on healing the whole family.
I think that's what makes you so different, is because you're not just here to say, okay, come on in, let me see what I can mix up for you. It's more that you're all about the education of it.
Absolutely. If I would have known 10 years ago or even 15 years ago what I know now, I don't know where I'd be. I'd be way different.
Right. But and that is what happened to you. You had that autoimmune deficiency. Mm-hmm. And did you just get to the point where you were like everybody else, where they say, everybody tells me that I'm nuts, right? Or you just have to live with it.
Blood work.
Or some people will say you have to live with it. And you said, but I also was talking to you about just at the break how there's these books that say, autoimmune deficiency and how to live with it. They think you should live with it.
Oh, sometimes you do have to live with it, but it doesn't need to control you. Just because you have a disease, an autoimmune or an illness, you may have it, but it doesn't have you. There's a little bit difference there. So I may have ITP for the rest of my life, but it does not control me. Mm-hmm. It's in check. And same with diabetes. You can actually, and I know it's kind of overstepping a little bit here, but I have seen people with full-blown diabetes reverse it to the point there are no meds, no insulin, it's in check, they're exercising, their quality of life comes back, but they are still prone. They have to be careful. Mm-hmm. They may have it, but it doesn't have them.
And it starts with your diet, so your lifestyle.
Diets plays a huge role,
sure,
especially with a blood sugar issue.
And if you like 60 pounds of...
You like that 60 pounds, huh?
Well, vegetables, I happen to like them. Not everybody does, but... You know what? They are. I love them. I know people more and more that do. But listen, let me say this to you. It's the vegetables that are homegrown,
Yes.
That's the difference. Because when you can go into that and it looks delicious, it looks like it's beautiful, and you go to buy it and you take a bite out of it and it doesn't taste as beautiful as it looked, that's because of this. That's because it's not homegrown.
It's deficient. Our soil's deficient. Our water's got issues. If you hold a peach and it doesn't smell like a peach, it should smell like a Glade plug-in. It shouldn't smell like nothing.
Exactly. No, and we've got our lines open here. And by the way, it does start with the way that you eat. And so you can get this. It's 60 pounds of vegetables that are homegrown. She's giving away 10 people are going to get a $10 voucher. Our number here is 602-277-5369. Toll free, it's 1-866-536-1100. And you can get this anywhere in Arizona. Say what you want to say. Your phone number?
Well, not only the phone number, 520-414-0041. Borderland Food Banks is the organization that brings the produce. However, the vouchers are going to be coming from Herbalicious of Arizona.
Okay, great. So
if they call Borderlands, they're going to do what?
Okay, but at least you're going to not necessarily call them. You can see where they're located, because she said
Yes.
you can go anywhere in Arizona. Again, her number is 520-414-0041. They're rated with the Better Business Bureau. You can call in here and keep on calling for this. It's 60 pounds of homegrown fresh vegetables. Again, our number here is 602-277-5369. Toll free, it's 1-866-536-1100. Caller direct. You do consultations. You're all about educating everyone. 520-414-0041.